From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
That broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Wednesday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham, Neal McCready, Clark Ford Studio this morning. A couple different guests joining us today. First, Russell Johnson, the Ole Miss recruiting writer for RebelGrove.com. We're going to talk some basketball. We're going to talk Chandler Lawson. We're going to talk DJ Jeffries. We're going to talk some football. N'Kobe Dean, all the hits today on the Oxford Exxon Podcast here with Russell. Also, changing the tune a little bit. We're going to talk with Matthew Stevens, former Mississippi State and Auburn beat writer, now covering Purdue for GoldandBlack.com, the Rivals.com affiliate. We're going to talk about the story from Saturday with Tyler Trent with Ohio State, and then we get into a lot of Jeff Brohm as well with him. So just hang out, have a good time today on the show. Brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon, Highway 6 West in Oxford, Mississippi. Lunch specials, $4.99. Ribs, wet or dry, call ahead or go in and pick up. Either way you'd like them. They do all that. They do the bottomless refills for 49 cents. Go buy the cup and keep it. And every time you walk by, 49-cent bottomless refills there with the Oxford Exxon. Again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are. Clark Ford is in Amory, Mississippi. 662-257-1900 is the number. You do not have to live in Amory to take advantage of the great deals and great service at Clark Ford. You simply call that number and you ask for one Corey Clark. And you tell Corey what new Ford you are looking for, and he will send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It's that simple. It's no haggling. There's no hassle. It's right to the bottom line. You get a great vehicle. You get phenomenal service after the sale. Corey wants to be your car guy. He wants to be your truck guy. He will go the extra mile. I know that sounds cliche-ish, but until you do business with him, you don't really understand. And once you do business with him, you completely understand. It is a phenomenal car buying experience, and it doesn't stop the day that you roll off the lot or they bring the car to you. 662-257-1900. Tell Corey you heard about Clark Ford on the podcast, and you'll save an additional $500 on the already great deal at Clark Ford in Amory.
I linked it on the message board. There is a really good story out on A.J. Brown from Chase Goodbread.
Saw that.
I talked to him for the story. I've got one line in it, but it's not about me. He was in Starkville, did a really, really good job from lots of angles on A.J., so I recommend that as reading. And
Chase is excellent.
I was excellent, yeah.
You are. The other Chase is good, too.
Yeah. No, he was great. It's really, really, really well done, frankly. He had sent it to me last night, was, hey, just passing along, and when I opened it, I was like, oh, this is good.
I know you feel this way, too. There's a lot of opinions about where the football program is, where it's going, how it got there. I suspect we'll be debating those things for a long time. What's not debatable, and I'm not one to tell people how to spend their money other than please spend it here and go to our advertisers. Yes. If you're the person that thinks that the way you express your disapproval of a football program is by not going, I'm not going to be the person that tells you you're wrong. That's up to you. It's a personal thing. It's your deal. I will simply say this. There are a bunch of kids on that roster, especially in that class, who had every excuse/reason, frankly, justification to leave. They absolutely did. You can say what you will about Shea Patterson, about his crazy dad, about all that stuff, but Shea had every justification to leave. If Shea says Hugh Freeze lied to me, he's basically telling the truth.
And A.J. Brown could have picked up the phone and gone anywhere.
He could have picked up the phone and gone anywhere.
He could be the other side of the field from Jerry Jeudy right now.
And the NCAA would have given him the same waiver they gave Van Jefferson, that they gave Shea Patterson. Those kids, Greg Little, all of those kids could have gone anywhere they wanted to go. And the ones that stayed, in my opinion, are the ones that whether you guys agreed with the decision to keep Matt Luke, didn't agree with the decision to keep Matt Luke, whether you want wholesale change, whether you don't want wholesale change, whether you want to go to the athletic building and have a hunger strike, whatever it is that you want to do, those kids, in my opinion, sort of deserve your what's the word I'm looking for? Applause, praise, thanks. Because they could have bailed on you. And I promise you, whether you agree with this or not, when they go home, a lot of their friends say, man, why are you still there? Especially A.J. Brown.
Yeah, and like I said, I know there's already talk on the board about it right now in that thread with Chase's story linked. I'll defend A.J. Brown on a modern-day Mount Rushmore for Ole Miss all day long. I feel completely confident in that. He's the best.
I'll go one further.
He's the best wide receiver in program history.
I'll go one further. When you factor it all in.
That's what I'm talking. And see, that's what we talked about that day. It wasn't just on the field. It was everything.
When you factor it all in, I think you can eliminate the words modern day.
Yeah. He's guided Ole Miss through this.
Yes.
He's been the face of the program during this.
Yes. If instead of putting out that tweet that day that says, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
If he goes, hey.
Roll Tide.
Yeah, or, I
love you guys. But.
I love you guys, but I want to do whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to fill in the blank. And literally every program would have taken him. Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. He liked Kirby Smart. Auburn. He could have gone anywhere, Chase.
He hasn't played in meaningful games. He can't help that.
Right.
It becomes an AJ versus Laquon thing, which is frankly unfair to both of them.
It is.
But he broke Laquon's record in one fewer game. Laquon had a better quarterback.
Yes.
Than AJ.
Yes.
They both had talent around them at the receiving position. Stringfellow and Core were good receivers. Metcalf and Lodge are good receivers. It was not where you're out on an island by yourself. And AJ is basically about to break every record in the school record book before he's done in 3 seasons. So statistically, what he's meant to the program off the field, everything. No, I'll defend that all day. And Chase did a really good job telling his and
he goes home to Starkville.
Yeah,
it's different than when you go home to Allen, Texas.
Oh, no doubt.
Nothing against Greg or nothing against Allen, Texas. I'm sure it's a lovely town. But it's different.
Greg goes back to Allen High School, and they're winning football games, and he's got the Ole Miss pullover, and he's just hanging out with his buddies with the Aggie pullover and the Longhorn pullover, and it's all good.
They might tell a joke or two.
But it's all good. It's just healthy mutual respect, and everybody goes, hey, we're going to the league next year. Y'all ready? All right, here we go.
Yeah. A.J. Brown goes home to Starkville. And having been the subject of MSU Twitter a couple of times,
it's not pleasant.
They're insane. I mean, they're the nuttiest of the nuts.
Well, I mean, AJ's getting some semblance of everything that CJ got. I mean, we were talking about it with Isaac a couple weeks ago at Funky's, and Isaac goes, no. CJ hated them. He goes, yes. I mean, it was real. It wasn't a joke. It was real. It was what he felt.
Yeah.
I mean, death threats. Not like joking, death threats.
Yeah.
Were they real or not? I don't care. Death threats are death threats. I don't care how logical they are or not.
If you ever get a death threat,
yeah,
you don't sit around and ask yourself, well, this was not real.
Come on.
It only takes one. Well, I mean, if you get 100 death threats and 99 are bogus,
there's still one.
That one's a problem.
Yeah. Secret Service takes everything serious when something comes in. Yeah.
Make a threat on the president and see how long it takes for the Secret Service to come knock on your door.
In all seriousness here, this is, no joke. It is an absolute tragedy. I guarantee the Salt Lake police wish they'd taken a couple serious right now with everything going on with that girl in Utah. I mean,
of course.
Just heartbreaking stuff, and in a lot of ways, it was just kind of ignored. Oh, he's harmless. Yeah, who knows? The Iowa State golfer.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. Anyway. All right. Up at rebelgrove.com, your mailbag is up today. You talk everything from Apollo and Clubber. You got a little triggered on that yesterday.
I did.
We did answer that question. That question is answered, though, however. There's a...
I tell you, don't bring that kind of stuff to me again. You about threats. That's a threat.
What do you have against Clubber Lang?
I don't have anything against Clubber Lang. But Apollo Creed in his prime would have destroyed Clubber Lang.
He couldn't even knock Rocky out.
I mean, Apollo taught Rocky how to fight.
But didn't tell him everything.
He didn't teach him everything. But Rocky knocked him out in 3 rounds. Just by having some mobility. Apollo in his prime would have destroyed Clubber Lang. Apollo Creed is one of the greatest fighters in history. Let's keep that real. He lost by 1 second. He lost his title by 1 second to Rocky Balboa at his absolute best.
It's hard to take, I hear.
It's hard to take.
Yeah.
1 second.
We got a couple subscribers that hate when we talk Rocky. It drives them crazy.
1 second. You got to live with that for the rest of your life.
What were your numbers used for the lottery? That was not the winning numbers. Somebody did claim it in South Carolina apparently last
Did those numbers not win?
What were those numbers, though? What was the joke there?
Cub jerseys.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Because at first I thought it was like a date, and I was like, no, I can't make that.
What are the numbers?
What were the winning numbers?
Yeah, what were the numbers I put?
Hold on. 9, 17, 18, 24, 34, 44.
Oh, yeah, it's Baez, Bryant, Zobrist, Harper, Lester,
Harper.
Rizzo.
What if he can't get that number as a Cub, and then we got problems? What if that's the difference?
Oh, believe it or not, I've actually worried about that at times.
Have you really?
A little bit.
Would you just use his number of deodorant strokes for a season if he signed?
Yeah, for sure. Here's my question. In football, 2 guys can wear the same damn number. Why can't they do that in baseball? Why can't John Lester and...
Well, you can't wear the same number if you're on the field at the same time. And in baseball, you're on the field at the same time.
Would it really matter? You know what? It's not true because they have Jackie Robinson Day and everybody on the field wears 42.
They make an exception.
Just thinking out loud.
Would you like an exception?
If that's what it takes. I could get over the aesthetics quickly.
Scorekeeper nightmare.
He'll get over it. Or she'll get over it.
That's his problem.
That's a he problem.
We got a request on the board. We've got a paranormal activity thread going this morning and last night. Apparently, we got UFO stories. We got everything. We're a week from Halloween.
Yeah, we're there.
I've already been bugged by a Halloween story this morning.
You have. You came in triggered.
I get triggered a lot these days, much more than I used to. I've gotten relatively high strung, frankly.
When we started this years ago, you were super laid back and, frankly,
fairly kind of liberal.
Pretty liberal.
Yeah.
And 8 years later, I'm the laid back one, and I'm more liberal than you are.
I think you are.
Oh, there's no question about it.
Do you really think so?
On the 1 to 10 scale, with like 1 being Rachel Maddow and 10 being Sean Hannity, I'm about a 6.
Oh, you think I'm higher than a 6?
Oh, you're an 8 or a 9, dude. I got news for you. I know how you are.
I would have with a straight face when we started this said I was about a 4 to 4.5.
You were about a 3.
Okay, that's fair.
You've shifted. You are to the right.
Foo-foo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a buddy from high school who used to make fun of me for a lot of my left leanings, and he didn't really say anything anymore. He's kind of like, well, it's Anyway,
so are you? What is the thread about, like ghost and such?
Yeah. They'd like to hear your girl story again, and we got a lot of new listeners. Probably haven't heard that your ghost story you tell. So
yeah,
I'll open the floor to you here.
I've seen a ghost.
You swear by this?
Oh, I absolutely know I did.
Okay.
I was in Mobile, Japonica Avenue. We bought.
That was the answer to what we thought was going to be the trivia question last week.
Japonica. We bought a house in Midtown. It was one of these old houses. I'll tell you a funny story about that. You'll like this. So
okay.
we were living in Birmingham, and Laura's working at AmSouth Bank, and I'm working at the Birmingham Post-Herald.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the job offer in Mobile, and really got the job offer and was told, need an answer today and need you to start ASAP.
Okay.
So I said, let me call my wife. And I called her, and I said, are we good? She said, yeah, take it. I took it. Turned in my 2-week notice the next day. And she couldn't get off work to come down and look at a house. She said, "You do it." Well, I said we should move across the bay because that's where the newer homes are and the schools were better. And
Spanish Fort.
Yeah. Spanish Fort, Daphne.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And she had it in her mind that, no, we were going to get one of those old historic homes in Mobile, by God.
The cottage, the bungalow, the looking deals. Yeah.
So
Craftsman's.
So that's what we got. I wasn't going to argue. I bought it sight unseen. So the day that I bought it, I saw it. She didn't.
God, that's dangerous. I'd never even think about it. Oh, my
Well, I look back on it now, I think, man, that was crazy. But I did. So the first day she saw the house was the day we moved into it. And I'll never forget it. She had all this, so we were going to paint this room and paint this room and paint this room, and there was all this stuff that had to be done. And that night, about 6 o'clock, because we had Wrigley and Miller were young, and we had to get the fence finished, and that wasn't going to get done for another few days. And so the dogs were inside the house and all this stuff. There was just a lot going on. And I walk in. I went outside to feed the dogs or whatever, and I walk in, and she's basically sobbing. She hates it. And I thought, well, that's it. That's and I'm
good run.
It was a good run. Made it a couple of years, and anyway, in that same house, this was. I don't think Caroline was born yet. Campbell was born, or maybe Caroline had just been born. It was a Sunday night, and however many girls we had were asleep, and Laura was asleep, or she was in the back bedroom watching TV.
Okay.
And I was in our living room, kind of laying on the couch, and I was watching the 10 o'clock Sports Center. It's back before everything was, you watch Sports Center. That's how you found out who won the NFL games.
Yeah.
And they were showing a Bengals highlight against somebody, and I heard a voice say, "Hey," like that, a young voice. And for whatever reason, I popped. I wasn't asleep. I completely remember the highlight that I was watching. I was watching a running back run for a long touchdown. And I looked to my right, and I saw a little girl in white.
This was after the shrooms you had taken, right? So.
You know me, man. I'm not a drug person. I'll have a few drinks.
You swear by this?
I swear by it.
And she just dissipated?
She was looking right at me, and I got up, and I said, "Campbell?" And I started moving towards her, and as I moved towards her, she just disappeared.
You weren't asleep?
Nope. I was watching a highlight of the Cincinnati Bengals, and the running back was running for a long touchdown down the left sideline.
It's kind of creepy.
Left sideline.
Okay.
I was awake. I had not gone to bed. I went to watch the NFL highlights.
You have an explanation?
That's old Holmes.
I mean, that's the one that I've told on the show that I typically would not believe him, but I had seen some of the crazy things. And my father lived in kind of an old farmhouse in the Aberdeen Wren area for a while, and I mean, there were instances where like the vacuum cleaner would turn on when it wasn't plugged in and stuff, and then that Christmas week where his wife at the time had come home and he was not home. There were only people that lived there, like whatever. Nobody else was coming in, and 3 days in a row, the same Christmas balls were off the tree on the floor. And she put them back and be like, or whatever. Next day, same balls off the floor. Next day, same exact balls off the floor. So the next day, she it's kind of whatever about it and tapes them essentially to the tree. And comes in the next day, tape is off, balls are on the floor, and they've all been taken apart, and they're sitting in a row. The hooks, the little crown to the ball, and the ball. All three of them in a row.
Either somebody was seriously trolling, or that's a ghost.
Everybody swore there was no one. I mean, and I don't know who it would have been. Like they wouldn't hey, so and so's next door and screwing with you, whatever. But they were all lined up in a row: the ball, the crown, the hook, and then the tape had been taken off the thing. I don't know.
I know what I saw. I know I was awake.
And I'm not typically a ghost person, but that is what it is. Call it whatever you like. We'll go to Russell in 1 minute. Before we do that, tell you the podcast is brought to you in part by Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Central County, and Chattanooga. 30 years old this year. And all underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting that understands your market. Leader in condo financing in Oxford and the float down option. So you can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLowe, J-L-O-W-E, at communitymtg.com.
Podcast also brought to you by Grenada Nissan. If you're in the market for a Nissan vehicle, Grenada Nissan's the place to go. They've got everything you possibly could be looking for. If you're looking for a Nissan vehicle, new, previously owned, lease, all of that is right there at Grenada Nissan. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. The mailbag is up. As Chase mentioned, it's at rebelgrove.com, and the mailbag is brought to you by the Westin Jackson. Restore serenity to your soul. Visit Soul Spa. It's the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. Indulge in personalized massages, signature facials, soothing body treatments, and much more on their extensive spa list. Escape from the everyday. Rejuvenate yourself in their luxury spa today. And then you can head over to Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro right there in the Jackson Westin. Sip on a creative craft cocktail or enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Chef Caden's mission is to connect guests with the community through local partnerships, so gather at Estelle tonight. The podcast also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you've been thinking about that golf trip with the guys you'll never forget, or maybe that anniversary trip she'll never forget, you've been thinking about playing St. Andrews, for example, or taking her on a European trip and sipping coffee at a cafe in Paris, whatever it may be, talk to John Edwards before you try to do it yourself. Why use John? He's part of Virtuoso. It's a worldwide network of travel partners that allows John to supply his clients with added values and unique benefits that are simply not available to other travelers. He traveled the globe for 37 years before getting into the travel business, so he knows the extra attention that is needed to make a special trip one that creates a lifetime of unique memories. So whether you're thinking about going with the boys to Pebble Beach or taking her to Napa for the vacation of her dreams, call John. Just give him some parameters and a budget. He'll give you some options, and you don't have to live in or near Memphis to take advantage of his services. 901-494-3387 or send him an email, jedwards@regencytravel.net. First-time clients can save $50 off their first booked trip just by telling John you heard about Regency Travel on the podcast.
Go get that flu shot at G&M Pharmacy on South Lamar in Oxford. Walk-ins are welcome. They accept most major insurance providers, and it's free. If so, $25 if not. So take care of your health and get the flu shot now with G&M Pharmacy. They deliver local in the Oxford area for those services. And again, they're on South Lamar. Now, Russell Johnson on the Oxford Exxon podcast. Russell, good morning on this Wednesday. We'll start with some basketball this morning. Ole Miss still awaiting word from several big-name prospects. Things going on behind the scenes the last few days and weeks.
Not in basketball.
Not in basketball?
No, not in basketball.
Completely clean.
Basketball is much like football. They're really the only sports that compare, like volleyball and rifle. Volleyball, rifle, basketball, football, the clean sports.
Baseball is really the dirty one when it's that coach that calls after the kid commits, not understanding it, then he has to call and apologize. That's really where the apologies come in.
That's filthy.
So, go ahead, Russell.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
So, DJ Jeffries, Chandler Lawson, whomever, just where are we at? What's going on?
Well, Chandler Lawson, he made some waves late last week when it became known that he was getting pretty homesick up there at Oak Hill, which is one of the nation's best every single year in high school basketball. He was getting pretty homesick, and he made the decision, I would say late Friday night, that he was going to, after his Oregon visit, pack up and move from Oak Hill back to Memphis and play for his dad for his senior season, along with his brother, who is a 2021 point guard. He's going to be back at Wooddale High School playing for his dad, and it's really unclear how, if it does at all, impact his recruitment. Lawson obviously wants to stay close to home, being that he can't even be in Virginia or in Oregon, where he was at on an official visit. for more than 2 days without starting to feel homesick and really just wanting to be back in Memphis. So I would say that really plays well into Ole Miss's hands as his recruitment progresses. And the only question with that is whether or not Memphis is going to be able to repair that relationship that has been strained and a problem with the Lawson family since Penny took the job, and even before that with Lawson and the AD up there in Memphis. And then with Jeffries made that infamous tweet yesterday that really made the rounds everywhere.
How was it infamous?
Because everybody was talking about it within minutes after it was tweeted.
Okay.
And everybody has their own prediction on where he ends up, it seems. Everybody I talk to still says that the kid's talking about Ole Miss and telling everybody he's going there. Even some of the coaches at Olive Branch believe that's to be the case. So Jeffries is the interesting one, but the two also could still announce at the same time, which throws a wrench in everything.
Okay, let's start here. If you had to predict right now, where would you predict Chandler Lawson?
Ole Miss.
If you had to predict right now, what would you predict for DJ Jeffries?
Ole Miss.
I'm with you on one.
You're with him on the first one.
I'm with him on the first one. I would pick Memphis for Jeffries. I think the continued ignoring of Corey Jeffries by so many people, maybe this is me having covered recruiting some in the past.
I know nothing about basketball recruiting. It feels so much like Kai Madden to me, where
it does.
You do the Ole Miss thing, even with Kai telling the Ole Miss coaches, and the entire time the dad was either going to get that kid to Arkansas or essentially separate the entire family in doing so.
Yeah, I've seen this narrative play out. Young man grows up. The dad's not really a part of his life. The dad comes into his life in high school when it becomes obvious that the son is going places athletically. That fills a psychological, sociological, whatever need in that kid's life. And when it comes down to the final moments, the dad puts the cards on the table in front of the kid, and I've never seen the kid balk at the dad. I've never, not one time. Doesn't mean this won't be the first time. But Corey Jeffries' insistence that Ole Miss is not in this, to me, is like, you know how when you walk out to the beach? I don't know, are you a beach guy, Russell?
Not really,
okay.
But go ahead.
When you walk out to the beach on a bad weather day, and there's the big red flag, and you can't miss it. Like when the people get in the water and say, I didn't see that flag, they're like, I'm like, you're out of your mind. Everyone saw the flag. When you see the big red flag, that's what I see. Corey Jeffries to me is, you know what I'm talking about, Chase, the big red flag flapping in the wind at the beach that says, if you get in the water, dumbass, there's a decent chance you're going to drown. That's the flag. And that flag to me says, this kid's not going to Ole Miss. That's just me. That flag, he is a giant red flag flapping in the wind, going on the radio in Memphis. There's in my mind, there is no scenario where Corey Jeffries ends up, because if his kid goes to Ole Miss or State or Alabama right now and not to Memphis, Corey Jeffries is going to be humiliated in Memphis because of all the stuff that he has said on 92.9 ESPN.
Does he have his own show up there?
No, but he's on the shows all the time.
He makes weekly appearances. Isn't that what it is?
Well, he makes appearances whenever. I mean, look, I've done radio up there. That is a basketball town, or that station's a basketball station. That station is very basketball-centric because you have John Martin and Jason Smith on the midday show.
Hasseltine.
Then you have Hasseltine, who's the voice of the Grizzlies, and then you have Gary Parrish, who's the lead college basketball writer for CBS Sports. So you have from what time did Jeff and Jeff go off? They go off
11,
at
right?
11. So from 11, from 11 to 2, and then 2 to 4, and then 4 to 6, it is a very basketball-centric
lineup, if you will.
Talent lineup. Yeah, no, that's the right word. And so those guys are absolutely, and they're smart. Listen, they get good. Their ratings are fantastic. Those guys are smart. They play up this recruiting stuff, and every time Corey Jeffrey says, "Hey, I want to come on the radio," they say, "Come on." And if that kid doesn't go to Memphis, I'm stunned.
Yeah, I mean with Corey and Jeffries. I mean, even his Twitter, screams that how badly he wants his son to go to Memphis. And Memphis plays into that. I didn't know they did an in-home visit earlier this week.
Sunday. They were in on Sunday, and he referred to Memphis as family. There's keywords in this that I've followed. You've followed it. I've followed it. I just don't. I think the kid's told people. I don't think it. I know the kid has told people he was going to Ole Miss, and I know the coaches at Olive Branch think that. I'm skeptical of the dynamics. I've watched the dynamics play out, and they always end the exact same way. And listen, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not covering this. Russell is. I've talked to people up there. I know, obviously, people in Memphis. I do radio some up there, so I know some people at that station and such. There's a feeling in Memphis that the pendulum swung heavily back into Memphis's favor on Sunday.
So look at football a little bit, Russell. Here's what I'm curious with this. Ole Miss sitting at 5-3 right now, 4 games to go. 2 somewhat winnable. State being one-dimensional brings that game into play, obviously, with it being the Egg Bowl as well. And then A&M is going to be a tall task in College Station. But let me ask it this way. In 2012, as that rebuild was going, we thought Ole Miss really needs to get to 6, get a bowl game to get into that 13 class, the one that kind of propelled the program forward. But there's no bowl game coming this time. So what's the difference recruiting-wise between 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever from a win total for Ole Miss this season?
I'm not sure. I mean, I was a major person who said that, the win total did matter kind of going into the season. But as Ole Miss is gone, they've got 5 wins, going into this stretch, like you said. I would say it's more about the eye test than it is anything else. A lot of the defensive commitments have started to, I wouldn't say look elsewhere, but they're a little bit concerned and almost confused as to how inept some of the defenses become as the season has progressed. Usually you see improvements is what, they were expecting as the season progressed, and that hasn't happened. On the offensive side of the ball, you've got the obvious elephant in the room with Longo and everything going on with that, coming up this offseason with him and the possibility of him getting a head coaching job. But you've also got the dynamic of having the chance to get another 1,000-yard rusher and the critical need for a running back in this class. And sure, you've got Jerrion Ely committed to Ole Miss right now, but, I mean, there's no secret that he's not going to be showing up in Oxford for anything other than maybe a party to celebrate his draft status.
It's such a fine line, it seems like, and it's almost more PR than anything else, the whole thing of what defenses look like versus that just being an opportunity to get on the field, because every kid thinks they're the guy that's going to be the difference maker. They're going to change things, and they're the one that's going to propel some program forward. So that's kind of interesting to me in a way, because it seems like it's a lot of it's semantics and depending on PR on how you want to go about that.
Yeah, I mean, they need a lot more than one guy on that defense. One guy isn't going to make a difference, and I think a lot of kids have seen that and imagined themselves in that role. And the last thing they want to do is feel that they've got the chance to be that difference maker and then get there and get on the field early and get exposed for 1 or 2 years while they kind of learn the ropes of the SEC.
What's best case for Ole Miss recruiting-wise right now?
I would say, I mean, right now they're number 15. I would say staying within the 15 to 20 range would be the best case scenario for Ole Miss right now.
Is there a path to that?
That path would include the very unlikely commitment of Nakobe Dean, and it would require quite a bit of flips and a lot of pouring resources into places that I'm not sure Ole Miss is ready to yet.
Bring Neal in on this part. We talked about this a little bit. Why do you think, over the course of the Freeze era when they were recruiting really well, and basically just his golden rule number one when it comes to in-state prospects, why do you think, and maybe the answer is obvious because of what's going on around the program, Neil, why do you think we're discounting so much that when it actually gets down to crunch time, they don't find the way to snag the in-state kid like that?
It's a good question. It's one I've wondered about because we've done this in the past, and then the kid ends up coming. I've just never seen a kid like Dean really not leave the door open. And he's really closed the door, if you will. He doesn't take visits. In the past, that's what always, I can't even think of specific kids, but you always kind of knew he's thinking about it because he would show up for games. Nakobe Dean's not showing up for games. His brother's on the roster, and he's not coming to games. I think it's his way of saying, I'm not coming. I don't want to get people's hopes up, etc. I don't know.
Like a C.J. Hampton. I'm trying to think through the line, like something like that, where you go, okay, there's the Florida State and the Alabama, but at the end of the day, okay.
But there was always a rumbling on C.J. Hampton, for example, that he's going to go to Ole Miss.
I don't know why I pulled that one out.
But he's a good example. It was always that rumbling that he's going to Ole Miss. I know what he's saying. He's going to Ole Miss. I'm not hearing that on Nakobe Dean. What's interesting is you hear that on Brandon Turnage, and then Brandon Turnage is pretty adamant to other people, I'm going to Alabama. Yeah, I like Ole Miss. I like Matt Luke. I'm going to Alabama. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I've said all along I don't think wins and losses matter. I'm sticking to that. I think there is an expectation that is now pervasive that Matt Luke is going to make sweeping staff changes in the aftermath of the season, which is now 4.5 weeks away. It's to the point now where if Matt Luke doesn't make sweeping changes, I think there's going to be a lot of disappointment.
No doubt about that.
It's been hyped up as changes are coming. And so I think ultimately all the talk about what happens in these next 4 football games is going to be completely overshadowed by what does or does not happen in the days immediately following the Egg Bowl. And then if, let's say Matt Luke has sweeping staff changes, what's going to become the story as we get into the month of December is who does he hire? What does his staff look like? If you're changing coordinators, are you changing schematics? Are you changing the way that you do recruiting? Are those coaches that you're hiring from other programs, are they going to bring recruits with them? That becomes the storyline. It's the reason that when people say, like people get on to me and they say you're minimizing the importance of the season, and then I say because I don't think it's very important. And if I'm proven wrong, I've been doing this for a while. I'll be free to happily admit that I'm wrong. I don't think a kid is going to make a decision based on what Ole Miss does against South Carolina or Vanderbilt or Mississippi State or Texas A&M. I don't.
I would go with that, with what you're saying. The commitments, the kids that are currently committed right now, those are the ones that I would say almost not hinge on the results of those games, but a lot of the defensive commits, they have several, especially in the secondary. They all see the opportunity for playing time. But like I said, a lot of them they want to see improvement. They want to see they know that changes are likely. Let's get that out of there. Everybody knows that McGriff's on a bit of a hot seat, a real hot seat. And the secondary has been, the safeties are coached by Jason Jones. The corners are coached by Charles Clark. And there's a chance for changes there as well. To go along with that, obviously they're hearing that from other schools and from other coaches. And then you've got the product going on the field, giving up well over 500 yards a game. And that's never a good look for recruiting, regardless of, whether they're fringe SEC prospects or, top level guys.
Last thing, Russell, Sam Williams blowing up in JUCO right now, huge numbers. How ready is he to come in and impact things immediately? Oh,
he would be ready. He would be ready to step right in and contribute. Whether or not he would be able to stay on the field for 3 like as a 3-down lineman, that's still up for debate. He does take some plays off at Northeast, like almost every JUCO player does. He's still going to easily be named a JUCO All-American. But with Sam, he's also got Auburn coming after him, Oregon, Texas, He visited Alabama a couple weeks ago. Alabama's interested, but they haven't offered yet. He's got other schools still in the picture, but it seems like as of right now, he plans to stay loyal and stay committed. Ole Miss lost another one of their JUCO commitments late last week, well, early this week, however you want to put it, on Sunday, and Javonte Payton, the wide receiver from Northwest. And with him, it seems as if he's going to end up going back home to Tennessee and playing for Mr. Jeremy Pruitt.
Have a good day, Russell. Appreciate it, bud.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks to Russell for joining us. The podcast is also brought to you by Visit Oxford. Visit oxfordms.com/events to see the full calendar of what's going on in town. Plenty to do this weekend, even though a football game is not going on. And then October 25th, 3:30 to 4:30, you got the Mini Masters Series continuing at the University Museum as it's family-friendly. Bring your kids and make art based off different exhibits and things going on there. Thacker Mountain Radio, 6 o'clock every Thursday in front of Off Square Books. We don't have a show this week at Funky, so head on over. Take advantage of Thacker Mountain there at 6 in front of Off Square Books. You got plenty more events coming, and again, with no football game, dinner, parking, lots of different things you actually can find a way to do this week with the football team off. So again, that's visit oxfordms.com.
And if you come to Oxford and you decide you want to make it a permanent or temporary or occasional home, get in touch with Harry Alexander. It's harryalexander.com. Click on the Properties and Neighborhoods tab at the top left. He is a RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent who's been in Oxford basically forever. No one knows the residential and condo market better. After you've gone to his site, you filter through by what it is that you're interested in, send him an email. It's ha@harryalexander.com. And you'll need a place to bank as well. If you're in the Oxford, Pontotoc area, go to Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. When you call OUB, you speak directly with the live person. You don't press 10 buttons. You don't have a 5-minute wait. You also get Kasasa. It's the absolute best cash checking account. With Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000. And with Kasasa, ATM fees nationwide are refunded. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more, check out liveoxford.bankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
Jump back on the phone now. We'll go to Matthew Stevens, again covering Purdue. We're going to talk Tyler Trent. We're going to talk Jeff Brohm and more with the former SEC beat writer now hanging out in the Big Ten. So here's Matthew Stevens on the Oxford Exxon podcast.
Matthew, thanks for the time. You will be pleased to know, first of all, that while you were covering Purdue and Ohio State, earlier in the day, the Auburn-Ole Miss contest went off with no issues whatsoever in the press box, no accusations. There were no scouts cheering. There were no beat writers upset. It appeared to go off without a hitch. I was just sort of proud for humanity.
So JG didn't get arrested Friday or Saturday night? That's good to know.
JG did not get arrested Friday or Saturday night. I was with him on Thursday night. I probably should have pressed charges against him because he screwed with my navigation system on my car because he was so drunk. But anyway, all's well that ends well. Courtney got him back to Tupelo safely.
It was like 72 degrees, and he was wearing Columbia gloves the entire time and said he was freezing.
Yeah, I mean he's a tough guy until he's not.
Yeah, he's a tough guy until the weather drops below 80, and then there's issues. As long as everything's between like 80 and 82.
Because he is the guy that takes photos for auburnsports.com, so he's down on the field when I'm up in the box, the climate-controlled box. So maybe I ought to shut my mouth a little bit, but no, he doesn't deal with cold very well. That's definitely for sure.
He covered this game from the box.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
See, now he's getting soft. He's getting soft. That's disappointing to hear too. I'll have to needle him about that a little bit.
All right, so Saturday night, look, I like the Big Ten. I like the Big Ten a lot. It's a running joke here on the podcast. I watch a lot of Big Ten football, but usually it's because it's early in the day, and I just sort of like it. I was one of the apparently 10 people on earth that when the game began on Saturday between Purdue and Ohio State, I did not know about the Tyler Trent story. I don't watch college football game day. It's just a show I don't watch. I don't watch. There are reasons for that, but I just don't watch it. And so I was unaware of the story until it started. The game started to unfold the way that it did, and I saw it on Twitter, and I quickly caught up on the story. And I don't mind saying this. I suspect I am one of hundreds of thousands, if not more, people who sat in their living rooms or wherever, their TV rooms on Saturday night and watched Purdue finish off Ohio State with tears in his or her eyes. That was as compelling a sports-related humanity story as I've seen in a long time. As someone who's up there covering the Boilermakers, I know it's your first year on the beat. How big of a story has that been? What is covering that story, the Tyler Trent story, been like?
I felt like we're in the same boat, Neil, that a certain four-letter network didn't do it as self-serving as I assumed that they would. And I need to get that out as first. But the Tyler Trent story is a story that's worth looking into, and it was worth having its story told on Good Morning America, and it was worth having its story told on Saturday night in front of the whole world because, everybody around here at Purdue takes it seriously, in my personal opinion. And they take his story very, very seriously. It's one that breaks your heart just because of what he's going through and what he has been going through for several years, let alone just what he's going through just recently now. I know Jeff Brohm feels strongly about Tyler. I know that David Blau, the quarterback, has said repeatedly that he feels strongly about Tyler. And there's a whole bunch of other people in the Purdue community outside that football locker room that care about that young man. So he had every they gave him every opportunity to have his story told, and his story needed to be told on a nationwide platform. And I repeat what I said in the beginning. A certain four-letter network, I think, did it as less self-serving as as I feared it might be the case. And so, to me, that was a integral part of it was a part. Jeff Brohm said it best. He said it was a part of what had happened on Saturday night.
That's what I was going to ask you about. I've been to that stadium one time. It was on a Thursday afternoon in March, hours before Auburn and Purdue played an NIT basketball game. I walked. I mean, it shows you how long it's. I've never been there for a game. The day I was there was maybe a maintenance guy in the stadium at the same time. In other words, there's no way for me to have any kind of a feel for what the atmosphere is like or whatever. What was the atmosphere like on Saturday night as that story began to unfold? Because obviously it was one of those upsets that it rocks the college football world, and then it ends up being much bigger than college football because of Tyler Trent.
Yeah, it was one of those deals where you started to get the momentum. You started to feel the momentum early on that, it was going to be an interesting night, win, lose, or draw. And you felt like, this Purdue fan base had been waiting for a moment like this in the Jeff Brohm era. Mike Babinski talked about, when they made the coaching change, that there had to be a moment, a seminal moment, for this program to move to the next level. And I feel like they got a seminal moment on Saturday night, and they got a moment. They got for the first time in the Jeff Brohm era, he got the win that resonates all the way to Walla Walla, Washington. And there had been wins, and you go from a program that won 9 games in a 4-year stretch before he got here, 9 total games, and then you take them to a bowl game in his first year. He's a first-year coach that's not, telling everybody, well, I'm going to bring 25 recruits in here that are going to make sure that this kind of a season never happens or this kind of a game never happens. No, he took the roster that he inherited, and he went 7-6. and he got him to a bowl game, and they won that bowl game. But they still had never had that, again, that win that resonates all the way to Walla Walla, Washington, all the way on the East Coast, and then that moment that resonates with the non-football person, the guy that doesn't give a darn about, college football, doesn't know Jeff Brohm, from his next door neighbor. I think that the Tyler Trent added element to what happened on Saturday night allows for that to happen to the normal person that, on, Monday morning tunes into Good Morning America and sees the Tyler Trent story. That doesn't happen if Purdue doesn't win 49-20 on Saturday night, but they did. And then Tyler Trent's story gets told, nationwide to, an audience that doesn't give a darn about college football. And so I think, and as hashtag football guy, Jeff Brohm actually is, trust me, he is. I do get the sense that man understands the big picture of what Tyler Trent means, not only to this community, but to his football program, and then to other people who like yourself, Neil, saw the story for the first time and thought this is a really big deal. I mean, this is a thing, and I think Jeff Brohm kind of gets that too. And I know Mike Babinski gets that, and I know that the president here, Mitch Daniels, gets that. So this is a community that's rallying around a family and a young man, and was so proud that and happy that his story got to be told to a nationwide audience.
That's probably the only actual football question I'm going to ask you during this interview. I know it is, but
okay.
How did they do that and then also lose to Eastern Michigan? I know college football is weird. We've all been around the block long enough, but what in the world was going on?
It's my favorite thing about covering Jeff Brohm, because the first thing he'd tell you is he did a bad job coaching for 3 games this year. And he'll admit it. He had already openly admitted that to me on the record, and he'll do it anywhere he's asked. They started out 0-3, including a loss in week 2 to Eastern Michigan, because he was not aggressive in the play calling, and they hesitated on a lot of things. One of which was they probably started the wrong guy at quarterback, if you look back on it in hindsight. Elijah Sindelar has got a heck of a lot of arm talent. He's going to be a very good quarterback, I think, next year in his senior year for Jeff Brohm, his 3rd year in that system. But he threw 3 interceptions in the first college half this year against Northwestern, and it totally bombarded any chance on a national stage that they had to take control on that Thursday night when the season started, and they had to go to David Blau. Well, week 2, we get essentially flood warnings for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday here in West Lafayette. There's 20-mile-an-hour winds. It's not the conditions that you need to throw the football at all. And Jeff Brohm watered down the game plan and basically cut back everything he wanted to do and basically played not to lose. So what does Purdue do? They turn the ball over 4 times, and they allow Eastern Michigan to beat them because they're playing prevent on both offense and defense. And so at that regard, I think Jeff Brohm learned at that moment, I can't play scared. That's not going to work here. And if I think they had to do it all over again, they would have had a more aggressive game plan, and they would have safely beat Eastern Michigan. The game plan that beat Ohio State was the exact opposite. They did everything they wanted to do aggressively on offense, and just decided they didn't care what the result would be. And it was the perfect game plan against a defense that just continues to give up big plays.
I know you're from sort of in the area, but just kind of curious, inside journalism-wise, you take that job. What did you know about Purdue? Did you have a lot of knowledge of them at all, or did you kind of get to go into a new market where it's, hey, let me just absorb everything that I can see here?
I grew up in East Central Illinois.
Right.
I grew up right on the Illinois-Indiana border, so I knew a lot about Big Ten. I knew a lot about Purdue. What I didn't know about this fan base was, and what I think was so cool about what happened on Saturday night was, one of the things Jeff Brohm said after the win was that it's okay to feel good about this. And I know that sounds weird to say, but Purdue fans are always skeptical about how they're supposed to feel about success, because they just don't know how long it's going to last and what's going to happen afterwards. And is this really real? Or is this a fluke kind of thing? Purdue fans, especially with football, when you go through the Danny Hope era and you go through the Daryl Hazel era and you start seeing this type of stuff, Jeff Brohm was quick to say, hey, look, this is okay to feel good for the next couple of days about what just happened here. And I knew that, Purdue has this basketball tradition. Mackey Arena is one of the best environments ever to watch a basketball game. But for football, it's been a slow build, and it's been, building an $80 million football facility that just opened last year with Jeff Brohm. It's been an AD like Mike Kubinski that understands the big picture and understands that, we can do good, great things can happen here, but we also can do things while having a fiscal responsibility of how to spend, every dollar and cent we have, compared to, what Ohio State and Michigan's budgets are. We're not going to try to play budget game with them, but we're going to try to spend as wisely as we can. They have a smart guy in that position. So, a lot of things have changed culturally at Purdue since I left and started, covering SEC sports for the last 10 years, either in Mississippi or Alabama. But this is the first, seminal moment that Purdue fans have probably felt, a sense of, we can do great things here with our football program, since probably Joe Tiller, left the program as the head coach, and certainly since, Drew Brees was behind center. So there's a lot of people here that are starting to feel a lot better about, the football program here from a fan base perspective than when, there were, 1,500 people in the stands at Ross A during the end of the Danny Hope and the entire Darrell Hazell era.
Took a break in our talk with Matt to tell you about Master Cuts, and with Christmas around the corner, they're there to keep your home looking up to par through the holiday season. They offer a variety of outdoor Christmas decorations that would transform your house into a festive staple of the neighborhood. Anything from lighting and garland, inflatable characters, whatever your vision may be. They design a custom display unique to your home, and the best part, all the decorations you pay for, you'll own them. Master Cuts will keep and store the decorations until they're ready to go up next year, or you can keep them yourself. The option is yours. So start a tradition with your family now. Give Master Cuts a call for a free quote at 662-607-7773.
This podcast also sponsored by Pinnacle Trust. Pinnacle Trust, based in Madison, Mississippi. It represents clients in 24 states and has advisors in 3 states. Founded in 1997, Pinnacle Trust provides detailed, specialized investment management, financial planning, retirement planning for individuals and businesses, and much more. At Pinnacle Trust, investing is treated like a commodity, and those decisions are made using objective information and research, not emotions. Regardless of your level of wealth, Pinnacle Trust will sit down with you, listen to your goals, study your expenses, and put forth a comprehensive, detailed financial and retirement plan. Cookie-cutter plans don't do that. They put you in a box. At Pinnacle Trust, they build a box just for you. To learn more about Pinnacle Trust, go to pintrust.com. That's PINN trust.com. Mention you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the podcast, and you'll get 10% off your first year's fee. Now back to Matthew Stevens on the Oxford Exxon podcast. You were on the Auburn beat, so you go to Purdue, so naturally you get a coaching search immediately, potentially. Not a coaching search, but coaching search rumors. As we tape this, it's Tuesday around midday, and there are lots and lots and lots of Bobby Petrino rumors that are out there. I'm not even going to attempt to dive into the veracity or lack thereof regarding those rumors right now. Petrino has a big buyout. Everyone looks for reasons to fire a coach with cause so that they don't have to pay that buyout. None of us cover Louisville. I'm not going to attempt to try to delve into all of that. If there is an opening at Louisville, I don't think I'm breaking news here to say that Louisville would want to talk to Jeff Brohm. He played there. He's from there. His family is legendary there in Louisville. He's done a borderline miraculous job at Purdue right now. His name's going to pop up. If Louisville comes open, let's leave it at this moment as hypothetically. If Louisville comes open and Louisville comes after Jeff Brohm, does he stay at Purdue or does he leave for Louisville?
I don't know, and I think that's the very, very unsexy but honest answer that I can give you both guys. Because if Jeff Brohm wants to be the head coach at Louisville, he'll be the head coach at Louisville. But it won't be because a lot of people think that Jeff Brom's leaving one job for a better job, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sure.
It'll be because Jeff Brohm wants to be the head coach at Louisville. That will be the reason. What mystifies me, guys, is that, and I know we're leaving this up as a hypothetical, and I know I don't cover Louisville, but when you cover Jeff Brohm, you almost cover half of Louisville, Because, I mean, his dad, Oscar, is still the quarterback coach at Trinity Academy in Louisville, where by the way, they got Rondell Moore. The idea that – so we're okay.
I mean, feel free to take the hypothetical away and dive right in. I don't know enough about it to go there, but if you do, man, have at it.
That's cool. Part of my job is right now assessing the Louisville program because Jeff Brohm and Brian Brohm have those ties, as long as Oscar's still their dad. The idea is this. So 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks before Purdue pulls off the nation's biggest upset in 2018, a Louisville Board of Trustee member literally says, we are not spending $14 million to fire our football coach. That's not fiscally responsible. Now, what he doesn't say is, oh, by the way, we still have to pay what's left for Rick Pitino. Oh, by the way, we still have to pay what's left for Tom Jurich. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to mention the $5 million buyout that you have to pay Purdue to get Jeff Brohm, plus the salary of which you want to pay Jeff Brohm and his assistants, which would be over $20 million. So essentially, this one Board of Trustee member, and maybe he was talking out of school, and the other people on that Louisville board don't feel that way, but he doesn't think it's fiscally responsible to spend $20 million to fire a head football coach at the University of Louisville.
And it's not.
Can't say I disagree with him on that. Oh, by the way, let's add in the fact that the big money booster at Louisville, Papa John, can't really save their butt anymore by writing them a check. That can't happen anymore. They took Papa John's name off the stadium, for Christ's sakes. So let's wipe that out of the equation. So where's Louisville going to get the money to I mean, and look, somebody could write a check, and I get how this works. Somebody could write a check, and Jeff Brohm could be the head coach at Louisville. Or, by the way, Louisville doesn't care about being fiscally responsible, and Jeff Brohm could be their head coach. But I don't believe, if you look at all the seminal factors, okay, the fact that there is an $80 million football facility at Purdue, that will get outdated as time goes on, but it's not right now compared to a lot of what other Big Ten schools have. The fact that the Big Ten network money is still green, it's still being printed, and it's still good to deposit, and it's not going anywhere. And the fact that you are in the Big Ten West, and as long as you're not in the same division as Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State, you got a shot to get to Indianapolis if you're going to recruit the way that you're going to recruit. No, by the way, he's got a top 25 recruit class according to our rivals rankings right now that he's building, and he's doing it with 3-star kids, and he hasn't even thought about trying to out recruit, some of the big boys yet. And oh, by the way, you've got a guy who's kind of a little bit John Wayne in the sense that he believes he can out-scheme anybody that's on his schedule anyway.
Well, and
so,
I'll add one.
That's why.
I'll add one. Oh, by the way, to your oh, by the ways. How old's Jeff Brohm? He's in his 40s, right?
Yes.
I mean, look, I know Louisville's home, and I'm a guy that doesn't. Chase laughs at me about this. I don't have the home pull, for example, that a lot of people have. It's not because I dislike homes or whatever. I don't know. I grew up in Louisiana. I've been gone for a long time. I don't have home necessarily as this calling card. So I know that for some people that's too powerful to overcome, and maybe it is or is not that.
I don't mean to cut you off, Neil, but it's why I took the job here close to where my parents live in Illinois now.
Sure.
So I'm not. Yeah. I, along with a lot of other people here on this Purdue fan base, are never going to blame Jeff Brohm if he wants to be the head coach at Louisville in 2019. That's also the reasonable, nature of the fan base that I'm dealing with here too.
My point is this: if he does at Purdue what a lot of people think he could do almost anywhere, the quote big boys are going to come call someday, whether it's Ohio State or USC or Texas or Alabama, whoever it may be, at some point, the big jobs that we all agree are the, quote, big jobs open up, and there's no law that says that he could turn Louisville down and in 3 years not be the next guy at Texas or Ohio State or USC or you fill in the blank with whatever job, makes it move. Whatever that is for you that becomes an elite job, he would be in the mix for that if he does big things at Purdue. My point is obviously a very long-winded one, is that Louisville is not going to be his last opportunity to land a, quote, big job, end quote. And I don't think Louisville's a big job.
if Jeff Brohm, I'll add to that. This is the thought that I've always had. If Jeff Brohm wants to be the head coach at the University of Louisville, he'll have other opportunities later on in life to be the head coach at the University of Louisville. If he wants that to be the last job he has in his career before he, say, retires and hangs it up and still lives in Louisville, I'm sure he'll have that opportunity. But I don't think – see, the problem that I have then is that so you take the job at Louisville, guess what? When you do great things at Louisville, which Jeff Brohm would do, I promise you he would do great things at Louisville, you think the big blue blood programs that you just named are still not going to come after him because he's at Louisville?
No, they're absolutely coming
Purdue?
after him. Yeah, they're still coming after him, of course.
Exactly. So, and then add on to the fact that, and I know we say this about a lot of guys, but I have one bit of evidence that I think is a pretty good piece of evidence. Jeff Brohm's about the least showy guy I've ever covered in this sport in terms of head coaches. How do I know this? His primary and only form of transportation is a 2004 Honda Accord. That's his car. Why does he drive a 2004 Honda Accord? Because according to him, it runs, and I don't need a new one. So he's a guy that just doesn't care about anything other than football and doing the job the best way he possibly can. He's really, really old school in that regard. Again, I give a lot of credit to Oscar. You know, they raised a kid, 3 kids. You know, Greg's the older brother. He's actually the director of football ops here. Brian's the youngest brother. He's the quarterback coach. They raised 3 kids that just, they don't look at things the way that a lot of other guys look at this sport and see it as a money grab. Guys, I might be talking out of school here, but I've held back on this thought that I think Jeff Brohm's biggest job is going to be a 3-letter league, and it's called the NFL. At some point, an NFL team is going to look at Jeff Brohm and say, I like the way that works. Maybe we ought to hire that guy. In the same way that Doug Marrone got the Jaguars job, and somebody just took a shot, at that kind of a situation. That's where I kind of see Jeff Brohm's career arc taking its biggest leap. And so this isn't going to stop. And Jeff Brohm knows that, and the entire Brohm family knows that, and everybody in the Purdue community knows that. But if Jeff Brohm wants to be the Louisville coach, he will be. But it won't be because he's taking a better job, in my personal opinion.
So last thing, Matt, is it kind of nice to be out of the SEC?
It's nice to. I think I said this in a radio interview after week 2, and this is when Purdue lost to Eastern Michigan. It's nice to have a loss to Eastern Michigan and not have to go research what the buyout is to fire somebody like I did every year I covered Gus Malzahn. And apparently I would have had to had I covered Gus Malzahn this year. It was an interesting change of dynamic to walk into work on Monday, open up my laptop, look at the message boards after a loss to Eastern Michigan, and not have people just absolutely panicked at what they had just witnessed. Why? Because for the last half decade, or honestly the better part of a decade, they had witnessed something like that. So it wasn't new to them. And I wasn't having to put out fires all day, every day on that Monday morning. It was just to deal with a much more reasonable fan base here at Purdue, or I guess a Stockholm Syndrome fan base here at Purdue, I guess, was comforting. And to do it, 2 hours from, where my parents live and where I grew up, was just even more comforting. So I don't miss it. I don't miss the constant consternation and panic that I know you and Neil know what I'm talking about.
No,
no clue.
No.
Sorry.
No. Now let me just tell you a little bit about. Let me tell you a little bit about the season we've covered. The week of the Ole Miss Arkansas game in Little Rock, we had a debate. I was trying to what I thought was the voice of reason, as saying I was arguing those who said it was a, quote, must-win game for Matt Luke. I was like, well, it's not really a must-win game. I mean, what happens if he loses and what happens if he wins? He won the game. Ole Miss came back, defeated Arkansas, and then played Auburn on Saturday and lost. A week after winning a must-win game, he loses to Auburn, and now everybody wants sea change again. So I'm a little confused right now as to how the whole must-win, fire the coach game works. But no, we don't deal with we don't deal with any of that crazy stuff. We're very calm.
Neil? how about this, Neil? And I'm dealing with it from 8 hours. I'm looking at it from now 8 hours away, I guess. But what happens if Ole Miss had beaten Auburn? Are they writing the $32 million check? Or is it monopoly money at this point? Like, does it just not matter? Like,
well,
that seems like a lot of money to me.
I don't
know about you, but that seems like a lot of money.
We make Jay Tate jokes, but Jay's really good on these coaching things. And Jay was saying last week that he was talking to people at Auburn. And this is what's interesting, and I don't think the story's going away because they beat Ole Miss. I don't think Auburn beats Ole Miss and everybody goes, hey, great, no matter what. It's the whole, it just buys him some time. Jay says they're looking into ways to get that buyout down. Looking into ways that maybe that contract got violated and stuff. Man, it's cutthroat.
Oh, God.
It's cutthroat. And you and I both know.
I say what I just – look, guys, I say what I just said, right? And my colleague over here at Golden Black, Brian Newbert, deals with a whole different world come basketball season. Because this fan base has never been to a Final Four. And I'm telling you what, if Matt Painter doesn't get to a Final Four, they go absolutely out of their mind. And think that they have a mediocre basketball coach and a mediocre basketball program because they've never been to this fan base is Final Four crazy. That's where they are now in basketball. So flip the script from what I deal with in football and for what Brian deals with over here in basketball, and it's a totally different world. So I say what I just said to say that, when you change seasons and you change sports, in this community, there is a different set of priorities and circumstances that happen. And I needed to get that out there just because I didn't want to seem like Purdue fans are the most, unbelievably reasonable, folks on the planet, even though that I find them to be incredibly reasonable when it comes to me. But when it comes to basketball, the expectations are out of this world. When you consider that Dean Cady never went to a Final Four, but yet now Matt Painter needs to go to one. So, look, I spent 10 years never covering an NCAA tournament game at the start of my beat writer career. Okay, that streak got ended with Bruce Pearl last year, but it's hard to make the NCAA tournament, and Purdue fans don't want to hear that. So,
well, I've already got my column prepared. If Kermit Davis doesn't take Ole Miss to the Final Four this year, I am calling for his head on a platter.
Well, there you go. Wow.
Final Four or bust.
Oh, yeah, I mean, like, you know where we work. You got to start calling for heads, on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I mean,
where you are, right?
I mean, Kermit's been here. Let's see, he's got here in March.
Yeah,
it's October.
5-6 months.
I mean, dude hadn't won a game yet.
No, he won in Canada.
Yeah, but that didn't count.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
He hasn't won a game on American soil yet.
Yeah.
How about that? I mean, they're paying this guy $2-something million.
Yeah.
He's got a staff that combined makes $1 million, and these cats haven't won a game on American soil yet.
They are playing at Butler here in a month, Matt.
Let me tell you something. For you both.
Uh-huh.
After having covered for better part of 5 years at Mississippi State, I feel bad for you guys. You lost one of the more entertaining figures in all of entertaining figures in all of college basketball when Andy Kennedy lost his job. In my personal opinion, I loved quoting Andy Kennedy on a consistent basis. One of my favorite things was going to SEC Basketball Media Day in order to just sit at the table and listen to Andy spin a wheel. At the very, very least, I hope Kermit can be entertaining if it's not going to produce W's.
Yeah, Andy's a character, and we have more time. I'll tell you about a live show we had last year and all the circumstances around that with him. But enjoy Purdue, I guess Michigan State this week. Really appreciate it, bud, and maybe we'll talk to you again as it goes on.
Hopefully. See you guys. Appreciate it.
Be careful in the pregame.
Yeah.
Our thanks to Matthew Stevens for his time today on the podcast. It's a podcast that is also brought to you by Megan Phillips with LAH Real Estate. She's the person to call for all of your real estate needs in the Birmingham, Alabama area. With almost a decade of experience, Megan's knowledge and expertise can help you buy or sell your home today. Visit her website, meganmphillips.com. That's MEAGANMphillips.com. Or call her at 205-602-7929. Again, 205-602-7929.
Red Sox strike first in the World Series. Boston up 1-0 as Clayton Kershaw and Chris Sale knocked around pretty good last night in in that one, 8-4, the final for Boston over L.A.
Chris Sale just couldn't get settled. He was just so geeked up. I get it, man. I know they're great pitchers and they make millions of dollars. They're still the same guy that when they
won the World Series.
When you were a little boy, how many times did you go out in the yard or with your friends or whatever and go, okay, World Series, game, whatever. And now you're out there and you're warming up for a World Series game, and it's different than June 8th, which you get ready to face the White Sox. I mean, it's a different deal. And the heart starts pumping a little bit, and sometimes you just can't quite control it. I bet both guys are significantly better next go-around, yeah.
Kershaw had been through it. I mean,
it's just the World Series, man. It's game one of the World Series. I'll tell you, having been to a World Series game, I can tell you it's a different deal.
I know this is a duh statement, obviously, but L.A. got to get this next one to get back to California.
The Red Sox have been the best team in baseball all year.
Yeah.
Benintendi and Betts and Martinez.
Just keeps coming.
Bradley.
Benintendi's been exceptional.
I mean, Andrew Benintendi's he's an all-star level player, and he's their fourth or fifth best hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Betts is just amazing. Martinez is a great hitter. Bogarts, they're just really good.
Team with several players that were excellent in college that have come through. Benintendi and Bradley.
Benintendi and Bradley are two of the best players to ever come through the SEC.
Yeah.
Bradley's one of the best college players I've ever laid eyes on.
Yeah, he was just special.
And Benintendi's one of those dudes in a long line of dudes from Arkansas that just hit.
Yeah, Bradley was in that Pedro Alvarez conversation to people that just, you saw him in college and went, wow.
Yeah.
Different dude. Different level.
Yeah. In fact, I think those two might own a level of their own.
That's a good question. I have to think about
I'd have to really think about it.
Yeah, I'd have to go through all the studs Florida's had.
And when I say that, here's the parameters that we talk about it for another day. It's not were you a great college player. Stephen Head, for example, was a great college player.
Yeah.
But I never saw Stephen Head and said that guy's going to destroy the major leagues. Nothing against Stephen.
Yeah.
I just never thought like that. I watched Pedro Alvarez, and I was like, that dude's going to win an MVP. Now, he didn't.
Yeah.
But it was
didn't work out, but it.
And Jackie Bradley was the guy that I watched. I was like, God, please let him go to the Cubs. Please let him go to the Cubs. Please let him go to the Cubs.
Maybe the best college arm I've ever seen. Just.
He could do it all.
Yeah.
Like you watch him play center field out at Swayze, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Just so fluid, so smooth.
Well, that was the play I remember. Is he had gone deep into the right center gap, caught a ball. And a kid from Ole Miss was trying to tag up second to third, so he turns on one step and just throws that missile.
Throws a seed.
Yeah. Almost kind of does the balloon thing. Like a golf ball. Just goes. Poof.
Yeah. And you watch it and you're like, whoa, that's different.
Yeah.
That was different. Hadn't seen that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my thing. It's not about who was a great college player. It's who was that guy that when you watched him, you went, whoa, that guy's 15 years in the bigs.
And he's on that.
trajectory. Oh, jeez. He's so good defensively, he can almost not hit and play, and he's a pretty good hitter.
They made Darren Ravel did what Darren Ravel does and missed tons of context yesterday, but he did point out that 2006 draft as we close the podcast today, because the Tigers had taken Andrew Miller at number 6, but they end up using that to turn it into Miggy Cabrera eventually. So I mean, there's lots of elements here. But they took Miller at 6. I mean, no slouch here. I mean, whatever. But this draft, 06, Hochevar is the year he went number 1 overall to Kansas City and the whole deal. But Longoria goes 3 overall. Brandon Morrow at 5, been a good player.
Yeah.
Andrew Miller at 6. Clayton Kershaw at 7. Drew Stubbs at 8. Tim Lincecum at 10. Max Scherzer at 11.
Wow.
One draft.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're scouting all of those guys. You're picking like 4th or whatever, and you're trying to say who you're taking.
Yeah, you just go, all right, fine. It'll be all right. And then the Orioles, bless them, at 9 took Bill Rowell around a couple of those. Greg Reynolds went 2nd ahead of all those guys. Brad Lincoln went 4th ahead of everybody but Longoria on that list.
Whew.
I mean, dude.
It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of other good players. I mean, Ian Kennedy's on this list. I mean, there's dudes. But,
Ian Kennedy's still playing.
Yeah. Now, there's not a lot of sleepers down there anywhere. Chris Perez, been okay with Cardinals at 42, but yeah, that's kind of it. Just thought it was interesting. Wade LeBlanc, Trevor Cahill, way down the list. John Jay, Zach Brenton, Alex Cobb. Samardzija was in this draft.
Yeah.
Just dudes. But Justin Turner was in this class.
He's had a pretty good career.
Yeah. Just kind of, anyway, going through it there. Paul Goldschmidt, 49th round. 49th.
49th round.
49th round. Didn't sign.
No, I would think not.
Drafted by the Dodgers and then came back.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Neat thought there. We'll be back
so
tomorrow.
10 teams passed on Clayton Kershaw.
He went 7th.
6 teams.
9 teams passed on Lincecum and Scherzer. They went 10-11. Mistakes 101.
Probably keep some people up at night.
Oh, gosh.
Clayton Kershaw, I mean, arguably the best pitcher of our generation.
Yeah. No, I'm good. Where's Brad Lincoln these days if you're the Pirates?
Poor Brad Lincoln.
Yeah.
So you're the guy. Yeah, shut up. It wasn't my fault.
I'm the guy. It's the Braves going, do we want Chipper Jones or Todd Van Poppel? Okay, let's figure this out.
And there were people that wanted Van Poppel.
Oh, So. All right, back tomorrow with Jeffrey, I assume, and we'll talk some more football and whatever else comes up, whether it be ghost stories or Rocky or anything else. Talk to you then.